Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mindset Monday. Welcome to March. Is the year moving this quickly already that we're well into March? How do we stop it? I don't know that we do. Anyways, it is great to be here. It is great to be on this morning. I'm happy to see you guys filing in. Want to make sure that you guys can hear me, so throw me a comment. I'm always doing a check to see what's what. Today, I want to talk about different forms and different ways of coaching. And my topic really should be it should be titled, Not All Coaching is Created Equal. And even though we talk about being equal, being fair to everybody, as leaders, sometimes I think we forget that we have to take on this chameleon energy, this chameleon personality where we change colors based on the plant we're on. And so how does that translate into coaching and into leadership is based on who we're in front of is the way we address things and coach. The message can be the same with everybody when we're working with our team, but how we approach them is definitely different based on personality, based on how long they've been there with you, been with you at the salon or spa, and a lot of different factors. I wanted to just say hey to a lot of people jumping in. Good to see you, Con, Ginger, Derek. Okay, Lisa, you're on the plane. I love it. Of course you are. The committed bunch for sure. Let's see who else is on here. Some of you guys I may not know, but I want to say good morning to you on Instagram and Facebook. So glad you're here this morning, and I'm glad I'm here this morning, enjoying my coffee. So for those of you that may not know me, if this is your first time jumping on, my name is Carrie Davis Duffy, and I was a salon owner for 32 plus years, built up to 3 locations, had over 80 staff members, and ran a multi-million-dollar business. Sold my businesses over the last couple of years and working with consulting clients on how to build their business. And so this is my passion and my joy. And so here we are today on another topic. Another thing I wanted to throw out there before I get too far into this is I just started a YouTube page. So it's Carrie Davis Consulting, and I'm moving a ton of my videos from Facebook over to YouTube because they may not be able to host them. I have videos. I probably have a couple hundred videos. If you want to check out any more leadership videos, there's so many on my Instagram and on this Facebook page. Just go under videos. There's reels and videos galore, and I'm moving a lot of them over. So anyhow, all right, guys, let's talk about coaching. I have done a live on this before, and I just wanted to get a little bit more in depth with the conversation. So when we look at our businesses, or our business, unless you're brand new and you're just starting your business and you hired everybody from beauty school, which probably doesn't relate to 99% of you, even if you just started a business, you probably have seasoned stylists along with new stylists. So if we look at our stylists and we can put them into groups or lanes, I like to call them, and we have our first lane, which would be our newer stylists. So they come to us maybe from beauty school, maybe they're newer, or maybe they have some experience, but they're new to your company. They maybe don't have clients. I would put those in the newer higher lane, the newer person lane. That would be lane 1. Lane 2 and lane 1, I consider somebody new to the company from the time they start up to probably 2 years. Next level would be kind of our middle staff, mid-range staff. They've been with us 2 to 3 years, up to 5 years. They know the culture. They know what's going on. They're going to need different coaching than your new staff. And then we have lane three. Lane three is our senior staff, our master stylist. Maybe they've been with us 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. They need mentoring. Mentoring is a form of coaching. It's just different. And so I want to break it down and talk about I want to pose this question to you. You know, when you look at your staff, do you look at them in 3 different groups and that they might have 3 different needs? So it's not only what am I bringing to the table as a leader for each one of these groups, but as a chameleon, how am I approaching different staff members? You might have people that you've built a relationship with and you can just lay it out there and they can take whatever you say and they're like, okay, got it. And they implement. You might have staff members that are super sensitive that you need to approach things a little bit different, even though you need to get the same message across. So becoming a leader that can view and approach people at all different levels is something we should all be striving for, because you're going to have all these different groups of people, if you already don't, working for you. So I want to talk about this level 1, and I'm going to go through the different levels and some different things to possibly focus on if you're not already, with respect to what they need. Somebody that's newer, and yes, if they're new right out of school or if they're newer to your company, they need an onboarding program. And I'm working with some salon owners that are my clients, because I do coaching also, that have been in the business a long time that still don't have really a proper onboarding program to set their newer staff up for success. Just like it's hard to get new clients, you know, and I know in this climate, it's not easy to get new staff either. And so once you get a staff member that you interview and you feel is a fit for your company, the goal here is retention. That's the goal. The goal is retention for new staff to turn them into lane 1, lane 2, lane 3. The goal for your mid-range staff is to elevate them to becoming really high producers. And the goal of lane 3, when you have these high producers, is to not be caught off guard where all of a sudden they're going to quit and go look for something better where they think they can make more money. Why? Because we didn't show them what's available for them inside the 4 walls that they're already in. Are we going to have turnover? Yes. But the benchmark for staff retention year over year is that you should be retaining at least 70 to 75% of your team year over year. What does that mean? That means the staff that you have today, or the staff that you had, last year in March, because we're in March, and you can take this if you're listening to this and it's May. In the month that you're in right now, last year, you go and count all the staff members. Who are they? And count them up. And maybe you had 10 staff members last year. You don't count and see if you have 10 staff members this year in the same month. What you do is you count to say, of the staff members that I have had last year, how many of them are still here this month? So if I had 10, are those 10 still with you this same month? So January of last year to January of this year, February to February, or you could do a quarter. You can pull a report of the staff that were with you in the quarter. Of those staff that were with you last year in the first quarter, are those same people are with you this year in the first quarter? Or the question becomes, what percentage of them are with me that were with me last year in the same time period? You want to be trending 70 to 75% of those people to look for growth. The hardest thing is when you have high staff turnover, guys, it's hard to grow because you have to keep replacing people and filling their books in order to see growth for yourself. Now, no one wants to see a new person that you just hire leave and not grow with your company. We don't hire people. We don't hire people to fire people. We don't hire people to let people go. We hire people to grow people, to grow. So with that growth comes leadership responsibility that we have to take on to make sure they are getting their needs met, right? It's another thing when you have a stylist of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years show up on your doorstep or in your office and say, I'm leaving. And not that I'm moving and my family's moving, like I'm leaving to see my growth in another place. We have to ask ourselves, what did we do or didn't we do to help those people see that they could grow inside this company? What didn't I do that I could have done better? And every time somebody chooses to move on, a great leader will look in the mirror and say to themselves, could I have done something different? To have had them more engaged over the process of their employment, whether it was 3 months, 6 months, or 6 years, that they could have seen something bigger for themselves, that they wanted to stay engaged, become a part of the growth of the company, and see their future here. That is the goal of bringing on staff. That's our responsibility as leaders, is to make sure that our team can see past the next paycheck, past to the end of this year. What is their world going to look like? What is their work environment going to look like? What are their finances going to look like? How do we bring that to the table? And I started off at the top of this hour saying that each level, these 3 lanes, need something different. So let's go through these 3 different lanes, and I'm just going to throw a couple things out in each lane. And maybe you're already doing it. Maybe you can throw in the comments something that you're doing that's been really helpful to retain staff for long term. When I had my salons, we had people that left. Of course we did, because it's the nature of our business. But we maintained 70 to 75%, sometimes month to last year, quarter to last year, even year to last year, 80% retention. And that's how we grow. We have, in the location that I just sold this last year, people that have been with the company 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 22 years. We're doing something right. But also when someone leaves, even though we have these longtime people, we still want to ask, are we doing all the things that we could be doing? So let's talk about lane 1. These new people that are coming in, what are they going to need? They're going to need an onboarding program. We should be hiring people with job descriptions. I've been talking about this for 20 plus years. Everybody that gets hired as a stylist, as a massage therapist, whatever they're getting at front desk, guest relations, lead, manager, whatever it is, a job description is necessary. The job description can then become a training checkoff, making sure that everything that's on their job description, they have been trained or being trained on how to do. So you're setting them up for success. So many owners I talk to, I ask them what their hiring process is, and they do their interviews. Sometimes they just say, do they have a pulse? Not recommended. They do their interviews, that's plural. And once the person comes on board with them, they just kind of throw them to the wolves. That is not the way to set somebody up for success. So when I say, what kind of onboarding program do you have? My question is, do they know how to execute their job description? Because how can you coach somebody on doing a better job if you haven't even told them what job they're supposed to be doing, right? So, I mean, that's like, to me, it's like critical. So in onboarding could take 1 day up to 5 days. I know that when I was the owner of our salons, or co-owner of the salons, we had an onboarding program where we did a hiring. We did a day that was orientation. That was, I think it was 2.5 hours. We went through critical pieces of the handbook. and what the expectations were once they came into the business and started. That could be done via Zoom, it could be done in person, but go through your handbook and pull out pieces that are talked about through the course of their employment that are really important. After that orientation, they sign their handbooks, and our handbooks that we had them sign were online, so they could go on and do like a DocuSign, or they did it through our payroll company, and we just send it out to them. There was a whole onboarding package, their job description, their wage policy. In orientation, we go through how people get paid, what that looks like, what a paycheck looks like. So when people are asking, we can refer them back and say, do you remember in the orientation when we talked about ABCD? My friend Tom Kuhn, and I've said this a million times, always talks about people learning by hearing, seeing, feeling, experiencing things 4 times, 4 ways. So just because you tell somebody something once doesn't mean they're going to go running off and understand it and execute it the way you want it to be executed. So new people have orientation. We do a culture training. In the culture training, we talk about our mission, we talk about our core values, we talk about the complementary services we offer, we practice those services, we go through the job description and what that looks like. And based on that job description, it's one thing to read it, it's another thing when your boots on the ground to know how to execute that job description. So who's teaching them those things, right? So then when you have a newer person that you see is going south, you could say, hey, remember in your onboarding or remember in your culture training, we talked about not hanging out in the back room. We talked about times when you have a break, which is your lunch break and your 2 10-minute breaks, is when you can be in the back room relaxing. You can go out front, you could go grab a coffee, but when you're on the clock is when we are actually going out on the floor, we're looking for things that need to be done. And let's take a walk around and look at what those things are as a reminder. That's the kind of coaching you want to do. You don't want to throw somebody out blind and then say, oh, they're not doing what I want them to do. People can't read your mind. I know that we wish that they could. When I first opened my business, I ran my business on clairvoyancy as my core value, that I was hoping that people would read my mind, and therefore I wouldn't have to talk to people and tell them what to do or coach them in a way that it's not even uncomfortable to remind people. But if you don't teach them something ahead of time, you're not building your culture. How many of you could complain saying people just sit in the back room and there's hair out on the floor, or there's dishes to be done, or there's color bowls to be done? Okay, given that probably happens in every business. But how many of you set your staff up from the time they started in a culture training that we don't do that here, so that you can remind the team, remember, this isn't what we do here, right? We're team. And whenever we have downtime, these are the things that we do. Instead of going in your office and getting pissed off and then unloading on somebody, but you never in the first place even talk to them about what the expectations were. So it's critical that you set the expectations for your company up the day people start in whatever kind of onboarding process you have. Hi, Sam. Sam said, guilty. Yeah, I mean, I can probably, look, I have some stellar salon owners on this call right now. I'm looking through who's logged on, and they're amazing, and they run multi-million dollar companies, super successful. And I bet they could say, I'm guilty too. Yeah, but it's what we do about that. So the new people are going to need a lot of coddling, and they're going to need to find themselves in a way of how can they see themselves in your company, and you want to set them up to win. So that's lane one, are like your new hires. And I'm going to say that from the time they come in up to 2 years, a lot of the training and coaching is going to be culture training, industry training, technical training on what it's going to take to get out on the floor. That kind of training and coaching is probably going to be how to talk to the clients, the most prevalent. Then we're looking at are level, let's say level two, lane two. Lane two, these are people that have been with you, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, 3 to 6 years. They've gotten hey, Mary Ball, she says, so guilty of the clairvoyancy. Yes, Mary, and I'm here to tell you, you can change that. But just know you're doing it. I mean, step one for us as leaders is knowing that it's like, I'm doing that. And what can I do to make it easier for my staff to really understand who we are as a culture, what our core values are, what we should be doing? And so find a graceful way out of that leadership style is my recommendation. All right, lane two. These are people that are well on their way to building their clientele, right? And they're well on their way to finally seeing their paycheck increasing. And yeah, it takes that long. It takes 2 to 3 years to start seeing like, I can maybe move out of the studio apartment into a different place that I want, right? If your team are executing the strategies, the success strategies that hopefully you're teaching them. This lane, this level, it's time to start looking at people that have been with you 2, 3 years, 5 years, this level here. Our goal is always retention. Our goal is that we have successful staff that are flourishing, right? So when we think about that goal, at this level, in this lane, we want to start thinking about, are there positions that I could talk to person A, B, C, D about that would help them grow and facilitate growth where they're getting stimulation above and beyond behind the chair? Maybe they become a part of your education department. If you don't have an education department, maybe it's time to look for somebody that's shining, that's been with you 2 or 3 years, that's following the practices that you've taught, that you look at and say, they're like a pillar of our culture. They would be a great ambassador of this culture. And when you think about your company in general and you think about how can we grow, look, I think back and our group of salons started in 1992. I mean, the first one did, and we grew from there, and they're still thriving. That's going on this July, 33 years. You don't have that longevity without a plan for growth, without an education program, without looking at people to go into education to help facilitate growth for others, without having a program for leadership opportunities for people where they can make a great living. These things have to be set up in your company. If they're not already set up, call me. If you're here and you're listening to this, you know how to get a hold of me. And let's talk about how to set these practices up so people can start looking at your company as their future. So level two people. Can they be an educator? Can they be a cultural ambassador? Do you have a mentorship program where they can give back? If you don't, and you have people that are with you 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you may notice people getting itchy. You're coming up on the 7-year itch. It is a thing. It happens. There's a 5-year itch, a 6-year itch. How are you scratching it? What programs do you have in place to say, hey, not only are you a great hairdresser, but can you also maybe take one day off from behind the chair and put that day into education to give back? Do you have an outreach program where you can go out to the schools and you bring some of your staff members with you, where you present programs to the schools to not only give back, but as a recruitment strategy? This should be happening, I'm going to say, every quarter. If you are saying it's really hard to find people and I can't find people, do you have a presence in the schools? If you don't, build a team. It could be one person or two people where you put a program together and help them to find their way where they feel they have an extra level of value in your company, where they feel seen. People want to feel seen. In this level, lane two, lane three, I'm going to go to lane three, but these are toggling lanes here. How do I say this? I'll just give it to you straight. The biggest shocker to all of us leaders is when one of our senior team members that have been with us 5 years, 10 years, 15 years comes and they're at our door, at our office, or send you a text, can I talk to you? You know it's over. Why is it that that person that's a senior member of team gets the most attention when they're on their way out? Your senior members of staff are driving your company. If a senior member of your team leaves, it could take 3 members of your staff to make up what they made in a year. If you even have those 3 members that are able to produce right away when that busy $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year stylist leaves, that's when you want to talk to them. That's when you want to mentor them. Well, it's too late, guys. What kind of mentorship program do you have for your senior stylists so they could see a future where they could see where they can move into a mentorship position? Some of them have been in mentorship positions when they were at that 5, 6, 7 year mark. And then they said, you know what? I was mentoring and I've been an educator and I'm just going to now focus. I want to go back to just focusing on my clients, change my hours a little bit. I bet you guys can relate to that. You have people that are probably, maybe they got married, they have kids, life changes. Can that life change inside your company to where they don't feel they need to leave in order to evolve in their life? Can they live under your roof and evolve in your world that becomes their world? So what do I mean by that? The coaching becomes mentoring here, but there's 2 sides to that coin. A lot of times owners are afraid to talk to senior stylists or coach them on something that maybe isn't in alignment with the culture because they're afraid that they might leave. If you're coaching people through their journey with you and you do not shy away from, I don't call them confrontations, I call them conversations. If you don't shy away from them, it doesn't become some big deal that you have a conversation with somebody that's a senior stylist about what's going on. If you're wondering how to have those, I think my last video was on how to have coaching conversations. I have a lot of videos on coaching. But for your senior team, for retention, for them being able to stay, your meetings with them will be on checking in on their schedule, looking at the annual revenue that they need to make, having programs set up in your business like we had, and I know a lot of owners that I'm working with are now setting up, where we have 100 G Club services, 150 G Club, 200 G Club, where they're striving to hit these service dollars. And how do they get celebrated? At the kickoff meeting at the beginning of the following year, there's a club, there's the clubs. People want to be in the clubs. They want to be producers. They want to get bonus. They want to get acknowledged. They want to be seen. We had service clubs, retail clubs, most valuable team player. We had a chakra club. We had all these clubs that at our kickoff meeting, it was a celebration and acknowledgement of what people were doing over the course of the year. When you have these clubs set up, say for senior team members, mid to senior team members, and it's $100,000 a year club. I see Lori. Hi, honey. I see Lori jumping in, who used to work for me and moved. She said, your foundation had made me so lucrative today. I was listening even if I didn't seem like I was. Thank you for all of it. Oh my God. I love you. Thank you for that. I needed that today. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. So Lori, and for those of you that are leaders know that your senior team members need to have something to look forward to. So these clubs are a great tool when you're doing your monthly or quarterly coaching with your senior master stylists or technicians to say, this is how close you are to this club. And with this club, this is the bonus. And not only are you going to be making this amount of money just on your paycheck, but this is what's coming up for you. So the coaching becomes mentoring. We then created for our senior master members of staff a G Club membership where we did coaching with them. Once a month. It was Zoom coaching, but they had to turn their numbers in every week because they were striving to get to the next level in the club that they were at. So that's how we kept all hands on deck, even with the senior people. So retention equals growth. That's not like brain surgery. We know that. We know when people leave, sales suffer. We know when people leave, morale suffers. The goal for us as leaders is to be able to meet people where they are. And I said this at the top of the hour. It was either meeting people where they are like a chameleon, no matter how long they've been with you, but it's also meeting the level where they are. Lane 1, the new people need something different than lane 3 needs. You can't coach people like they're all on the same level and think, I did my job. So my parting words for you guys, and I love that you guys jumped on today. Thank you for being here. Is find a way to look at your team in groups. Maybe it's 2 groups for you. Maybe it's 5 groups for you. I don't know. And what does each one of those groups need? That's A. B, how can I become more of a chameleon and meet people where they are and not talk to everybody the same way? Not everybody processes information the same way. So great leaders intuitively know this and meet people where they are. And number 3, if you're not consistently meeting with your team on a rotation, finding things they're doing right, finding areas that they can improve and grow when they feel inspired to do so, you're missing the boat. Your retention will show that, your retention numbers. So look, if you need help, you know how to reach me. If you want to listen to more videos on coaching, on culture, on morale, on education programs, look up the videos on Carrie Davis Consulting Facebook page. Go to Carrie Davis Consulting YouTube channel. I'm moving all those videos over there. So there will be a huge video library that's free, but hit subscribe on YouTube. So become a subscriber, follow me here. If you think that this was informative for you and you think that somebody else that you know would benefit from this today, make sure to tag them. I'll post this on Instagram, and this will be live also on Facebook, maybe for 30 days. And also share it. I would love that. So if you got something, share the wealth. Thanks for showing up, you guys. I appreciate it. And if there's anything you guys want me to talk about and address in any upcoming lives, throw me a message. I'm always up for it. Have an amazing week. And I can't wait to see you guys all again. Bye.